Nick Coach Wire here for the 10th inning, giving you another episode of This Day in Sports History. In yesterday's episode, we saw the Washington Capitals get their first Stanley Cup title all the way in 2018. We don't have any first like that today for the Stanley Cup, but we do have a lot to get into. If you all enjoy this video, leave a like on it. If you're new to the channel and you like what you see and you want more of it, hit that subscribe button. Now without further ado, let's get into it. This Day in Sports History. We start out today in 1899 at the British Open, and Harry Vardon wins his second consecutive title of 3 titles at the British Open, winning by 5 strokes over runner-up Jack White. Then we move up to the 1935 US Open, and we saw Sam Parks Jr. win his first major title with a score of 11 over. Parks defeated Jimmy Thompson by 2 strokes to get his only major championship of his career. At the same time as we saw Parks Jr. get crowned US Open champion, we saw another Triple Crown winner, Omaha, in 1935. Omaha won the Belmont Stakes to get the Triple Crown in 2 minutes, 30.6 seconds. Now this wasn't the first time that this family had seen a Triple Crown winner. Omaha was actually the son of Gallant Fox, the previous Triple Crown winner. Overall, in the Belmont, Omaha won by only 1.5 lengths, but it was enough to get that Triple Crown, making him the 3rd Triple Crown winner, son of the 2nd Triple Crown winner. Now we move up to the 1958 LPGA Championship, and we saw Mickey Wright win with a score of 8 over to win her first of 13 major titles, 6 strokes ahead of second place Faye Crocker. 10 years later, at the 1968 French Open on the women's side, Nancy Ritchie defeated Ann Hayden-Jones 5-7, 6-4, 6-1 for her second and final Grand Slam trophy on the singles side. A year later, in 1969, we stick with the French Open, this time on the men's side. Rod Laver wins the second leg of his second Grand Slam, defeating Ken Rosewall 6-4, 6-3, 6-4. This would be the second French victory for Laver and the 9th of 11 major victories, 8 of those coming within 2 years. 10 years later in 1980, we have the LPGA Championship final round and the 1980 French Open men's final on the day. We start out at the LPGA Championship, which saw Sally Little, with a score of 3 under, win her first of 2 major titles, 3 strokes ahead of runner-up Jane Blalock. Bjorn Borg wins his 3rd straight French titles, the 5th of 6 French titles, and the 9th of 11 overall majors, by defeating Vitas Gerulaitis 6-4, 6-1, 6-2 in straight sets. Then we move up 2 years to 1982, and we have another NBA championship, which saw the Los Angeles Lakers defeat the Philadelphia 76ers 4-2. For the Lakers, Jamal Wilkes, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Norm Nixon, Bob McAdoo, and Magic Johnson all averaged over 15 points. And for the 76ers, Andrew Toney and Julius Erving both averaged 25 plus, but it wasn't enough. The Lakers' starting 5 was too much for the Sixers to handle. A year later in 1983, and a world record for the women's 100-meter dash was set. Marlise Gore set the world record with 10.81 seconds, a record that would be broken less than a month later, but a record nonetheless. 2 years later in 1985 at the French Open, for the women's final, Chris Evert defeated Martina Navratilova 6-3, 6-7, 7-5 in 3 sets. This would be Everett's 6th French singles title and her 17th Grand Slam title of 18 overall. A year later in 1986, we move right back to the NBA Finals. We saw the Boston Celtics defeat the Houston Rockets 4-2. For the series, Kevin McHale, Larry Bird, and Dennis Johnson all averaged 15 plus points for the Celtics, but in Game 6, Larry Bird and Kevin McHale both scored 29 points to push the Celtics to their championship. The Rockets were led by Hakeem Olajuwon. He did everything he could, averaged a double-double. The Celtics were just too much though. The Celtics got this championship. At the same time that we saw the Celtics being crowned champions of the NBA, we saw Ivan Lendl win his 3rd career Grand Slam title at the 1986 French Open men's final. Lendl won his third career Grand Slam title of 8 overall and the second of 3 French titles by defeating Mikhail Bernfors 6-3, 6-2, 6-4 in straight sets. 3 years later, the 1991 French Open women's final, Monica Seles defeated Arantxa Sanchez Vicario 6-3, 6-4 in straight sets. This would be the second of 3 French victories for Seles and the third of 9 overall Grand Slam titles for Seles. 5 years later, the 1996 French Open women's final, Arantxa Sanchez Vicario made it once again. However, she would lose once again, this time to Steffi Graf. Graf won 6-3, 6-7, 10-8 in 3 sets. This would be the 5th French singles title for Graf and the 18th of 22 major titles. Also in 1996, at the College World Series, we saw the first World Series game end via the walk-off home run. With 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th, LSU was down by 1 run, then Warren Morris, and Morris hit the first ever College World Series ending walk-off home run, giving the Tigers a 9-8 victory over Miami. Morris missed 39 games on the season due to a broken bone in his right wrist, so this would actually be the first home run of the season for Morris. No better time for it as they won the national championship. We move up 1 year to the 1997 French Open men's final, which saw Gustavo Kuerten win the first of 3 French titles by defeating Sergi Bruguera 6-3, 6-4, 6-2 in straight sets. This would be the first of 3 French titles and the first of 3 major victories overall. Then we go to 2002 at the French Open women's final. We saw the sisters battling each other. Serena Williams going against Venus Williams. Obviously, one of the Williams sisters was going to win. This time though, Serena got the best of Venus. Serena won her first French title and second overall title of 23 total, defeating Venus 7-5, 6-3 in straight sets. A year later in 2003, we saw the French Open final on the men's side and the LPGA Championship final occur at the same time. At the LPGA Championship, Annika Sorenstam with a score of 6 under wins in a playoff hole over Grace Park with a par on the first hole, giving her the victory, giving her the championship. Then at the French Open, Juan Carlos Ferrero claims his only major title, defeating Martin Verkerk 6-1, 6-3, 6-2 in straight sets. Move up to 2008 and we have a similar situation. The LPGA Championship final and the French Open men's final was on the same day. At the LPGA Championship, rookie Yanni Zhang with a score of 12 under wins a 4th hole playoff with Maria Hjorth, giving her the first of 5 major titles for the 19-year-old. Then at the French Open, Rafael Nadal equals Bjorn Borg's record of 4 consecutive French titles, winning the 4th of 12 overall French titles and the 4th of 19 overall majors by defeating Roger Federer 6-1, 6-3, 6-0. Now we move up to 2012 and you get something that you really don't see that often. The Seattle Mariners had a combined no-hitter. It was a 6-pitcher combined no-hitter, tied for the most pitchers ever used in a no-hitter. Kevin Millwood started the game for the Mariners, going 6 innings strong. Then Charlie Furbush came in, threw 2/3 of an inning. Stephen Pryor finished off the 7th with 1/3 of an inning. Then in the 8th, Lucius Litke came out, got 1/3 of an inning done. Then Brandon Lee finished off the inning. Finally, Tom Wilhelmsen came out, finished off the game with 1 inning, giving the Mariners a combined no-hitter. 1 year later, we had the French Open women's final and the NHL Western Conference final occur on the same day. At the French Open women's final, Serena Williams won her second French title, the 16th overall of 23 major titles, defeating Maria Sharapova 6-4, 6-4 in straight sets. Then at the Western Conference Finals, the Blackhawks defeated the Kings 4-1 with a Game 5 victory of 4-3 in double overtime. Chicago was up 2-0 after the first period. Then the Kings scored a goal in the second, making it 2-1. The Kings scored 2 in the third, with Mike Richards tying the game at 3 with time running out on the clock, less than 30 seconds to go in the game. The first overtime period, nothing really happened. Both teams were even. Then in the second overtime period, Patrick Kane of the Chicago Blackhawks scored his 3rd goal of the day, giving him a hat trick 12 minutes into double overtime for the game-winning goal to move on to the Stanley Cup Finals. 1 year later in 2014, and we're back at the French Open for the men's final. Rafael Nadal defeated Novak Djokovic 3-6, 7-5, 6-2, 6-4 in 4 sets. This would not only be Nadal's 9th French title, but this would also be his 5th consecutive French title. Then at the 2018 NBA Finals, the Golden State Warriors completed a 4-0 sweep over the Cleveland Cavaliers. This would be the Warriors' 3rd title in 4 years with a 108-85 victory over the Cavs. For one of the greatest teams of all time in the Warriors, everyone played well. Kevin Durant, though, was the big man of the series. He won Series MVP. He went toe-to-toe with LeBron every single game. LeBron, obviously, best player on the Cavs, maybe best player in the series. But Durant stayed with him every step of the way. He got Series MVP for the Warriors as they won their championship. Finally, in 2019 at the French Open on the women's final, Ashley Barty defeated Marketa Vondrousova 6-1, 6-3 in straight sets. This would be Barty's first French Open victory and the first Grand Slam title on the singles side. So there you have it. That's what happened on this day in sports history. If I mispronounced any names, I do apologize. If I left anything out, let me know down in the comment section. For Nick Dwyer and the 10th inning, everybody stay safe out there, and I will see you tomorrow.